Welcome to the Momlife podcast. Whether you are in the beginning stages of motherhood, a mother of two, or an empty nester, this podcast is for you. We're talking about everything motherhood and we're not holding anything back. So get ready to join me in today's episode as we talk about some things that are definitely going to help you as you navigate this journey. Hello, beautiful mama. Welcome back to the Momlife podcast. I'm your host, fellow mama and friend, Renise, and we are getting into a topic today that so many moms experience. Now, I did some market research or whatever you want to call it for this specific topic. I wanted to know in my mom groups on social media, I put some feelers and questions and polls out there on what is it that a lot of you deal with the most being a mom, some of those hard things that you experience. And a lot of things came up, stress and anxiety, the not knowing and preparation. But there was one thing that really stuck out to me. And I experienced this myself. So I knew this would be a great topic for us to start this rebrand of the podcast off with. Now, to premise this is really going to relate to those of you that have a significant other that are involved in your children's lives, right? For those of you that have this significant other, this is also a great episode to listen to if you are an expecting or brand new mom, because you probably haven't really hit this point yet, and it will give you some great pointers and some great ideas to help to prepare you as you move through so that you hopefully won't experience this in such a way. I want that preparation to be there for those of you that don't experience things yet and have it through this podcast. So what are we talking about today? I am talking about this whole idea, this whole experience of being the default parent. How many of you can relate to that? Default parenting. You can raise your hand if you want to. I don't care if you're driving your car, if you're in the middle of the grocery store right now, wherever you are, feel free to raise that hand if you have felt like the default parent. What does that mean? It means that you kind of feel or experience that instead of this being a shared experience of parenthood, where the responsibilities and the tasks fall on both parties, it now kind of automatically shows up for one specific individual, which is usually the mom, right? It usually falls to mom. Now, why does this happen? There's a lot of different aspects, but one of the biggest ones is as the moms, we are more emotionally involved. We are the carers. We are the nurturers. We have this way of being with our children that comforts them. We're also the ones that tend to get things done when it comes to the house, when it comes to the lists of the to-dos on what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. Naturally, we're kind of wired that way. And so we end up as a default parent in some situations. Now, not everybody deals with this. So like I said, this episode is for those of you that experience this, and this is also for those of you that are not there yet, so that you can be prepared if this kind of situation shows up, or to avoid this situation in the first place, because I'm going to get into some ways that you can shift this to get out of it, because I myself went through this. So the default parenting, it's a lot of pressure. It's overwhelming. It feels stressful. There's a lot to it, and it's not fair. Period, right? I know you have said to yourself several times, if you are experiencing this is not fair. Why is it that these things or everything falls on me? I'm not the only one that's a parent here. There's two of us. How come everything is on me and I'm so overwhelmed, and I look over at my significant other and they seem to be fine. They seem to be enjoying themselves or able to do what they want, and I can't do what I want because I'm constantly dealing with all of the A, B, C's, and D's of responsibilities for my life and the children's lives and our family's lives. What is going on here? It is a lot. I myself for years went through this. Everything with my kids was me. Everything with responsibilities for the family and the house was me. That was on me, my responsibility, and I was overwhelmed. I wasn't happy, period. Because you get so overwhelmed for so long that you can't be happy. I didn't even have time to take care of myself. I kind of lost a sense of who I was, right? Because that happens easily when we get caught up in these things, right? You kind of lose that sense of who you are. You lose a sense of joy in your everyday because you don't have time for it, or because you're so focused on everybody else and their needs and their wants and their happiness that you forget about your own. There's a lot of things that happen with this, and it looks different for everyone. Not every situation is the same for everyone. All our situations are our own situations. But in my case, I really felt everything was on me other than bringing in the financial income. This does tend to happen a lot when your significant other is the main breadwinner. That happens a lot. But it happens also a lot to those who are with someone that doesn't really understand what their role is. Okay, what their role is. So let's get into how we can begin to shift this, how we can avoid this in the first place. And it's going to be something that most of us are uncomfortable with. What is it? It's going to be having the conversation. This is what changed it for me. It was extremely hard, and it was honestly a difficult time for my husband and I because we had to navigate and figure things out. But it turned out so beautiful in the end. It really, really did. And that's my hopes for you. You have to have the conversation with your significant other. You have to advocate for yourself and speak up. You have to say, hey, can we sit down and talk about some things because I'm feeling a certain kind of way and I want to know where you're at and how you're feeling right now, because I know you're probably feeling a certain kind of way. And that way, everything's on the table. That way we have an understanding. Here's the thing. Here's what I learned, and I will bring my husband on in an episode. We'll talk about this at some point. But my husband shared with me that he didn't know that I was feeling that way. He didn't realize that everything was on me in a lot of ways. And then he shared with me another piece of that. There were things he didn't know that were happening. But then he also shared with me something I never thought about. And it was that for him, he thought that he was doing his part, right? He thought, I'm doing my thing and she's doing her part and that's all I have to do. And that for me was so eye-opening. And I had to share this part because I am pretty sure that a lot of your significant others are feeling the same because men think differently. And they don't know what we don't share with them because they think different. And for us, there's things we don't know because we don't think the same as them, which is why it's so important to have the conversations. I know it can feel awkward. I know it can feel uncomfortable. I know it can feel scary. But I'm telling you, if you don't speak up, if you don't talk about it, what is going to happen is you're going to stay in the situation that you're in. And it's either going to stay the same or it's going to get worse. For me, the longer I didn't say anything, the worse things got. The worse I felt. The more unhappy that I was. And I hit a point in my life where I want happiness. I want to feel better. I want to feel like I have a partner and not someone that's just providing financially and is there. I need help. I want support. I want us both to share these things so that I can breathe, so that I can do something for myself once in a while. I wanted more. And I'm sure you're feeling that way too if you are going through this. So you have to talk about it. You have to share what you're expecting from them and ask them what they're expecting of you because they're not going to be the same things. And you have to come to this happy medium. You have to come to this middle ground that is saying, okay, let's come to this place where we say, these are the things I'm going to do, and these are the things that you're going to do. And now that we both know what they are, we both can do those things, and we both can keep each other accountable. That's the thing. You know, you have that knowledge, you have that understanding and that awareness, and that is going to make a difference in your everyday life, because again, they think so different. They may not be aware. There's so many aspects to it. And same for you, right? You have expectations, you're not sharing them, you're putting that on your significant other, and you're expecting them to just show up, but they don't know. So you have to share what you're feeling, what you're expecting, what you're experiencing, so that they are aware, and then allow for them to share with you what they are feeling, what they are expecting, what they are going through, so that you come to that mutual ground. That mutual ground is where it's at. In a war, wars end when there's that peace, that mutual place, right? Because we have one side over here, one side over there. They got their own stuff going on. They're talking bad about the other one. They have all these things in their own worlds. But when they come together, they can make peace when they talk about it, when they come to that agreement, right? And that's what I want for you, is to have that agreement to make things easier for you. You get to that place of having a partner. Okay, a partnership is always the goal that every woman wants. We want a partnership. We don't want just this relationship that's, more on one person than the other. A partnership feels more equal. Now, is it going to be equal in all areas? Probably not, right? Because there's going to be something you're better at than they are, and some things they're better at than you are. For instance, my husband is fantastic at being like the fun dad, at looking at things in a different perspective than I see them. And he helps to really level me out in that area. He can say to the kids, let's go do this thing, or he says yes to something. Of course, to say yes when I'm over here thinking, maybe that's not a good idea because I view it more narrowly. He opens me up, right? He's more fun with the kids than I am. The men, I don't know why men are just so much more fun with the kids, but they are. They're usually like the fun dad, right? They go and have those things. But for me, I'm the nurturer. My kids come to me for the safety. They confide in me. They come to me for the snuggles. They come to me because they know that Mom takes care of these specific things. I know she does that. So that's where I shine. So by allowing my husband to shine in his way, and for myself to shine in my way, we have that mutual ground. And then when it comes to tasks and responsibilities, because my husband and I discuss these things and we understand it, he's able to show up in the way that he's able to, and the way I need him to, and then I'm able to do the same. And now the load is not all on me, right? Because when the load is all on you, it gets to be too much, and it shouldn't be, right? It takes two. It takes a village, first of all, to raise children. But when it's a couple and you have a child, it takes you both, right? It takes you both in your glory, right? In your the ways that you are great at things and the way that you're not great at things. It takes both of that for both of you coming together and putting your heads together and making it work to raise that child or those children. So you have to have these conversations. And this is something that I talk about in my postpartum class. That will be available soon. Just so you know, the courses will be available online soon. But it's something that I really stress to new moms, to have these conversations on what you expect from your partner and what your partner expects from you, because it's not going to be the same. And I don't want them to be surprised later when it's all on them and they're dealing with being a default parent. No one should be that default parent. It is a partnership. It is something you share together. So it can look different. And here's something I also really want to share with you guys. These things will change over time. It is a fluid thing. Why? Because your children grow up. They go through milestones. And you as parents also go through your own milestones. Your lifestyle changes over time. For instance, me, going back to school. I'm going back to school. I'm going to nursing school. That's right around the corner being in the program. I've been in school for a little bit, finishing my prerequisites, and then I'm going to be in the nursing program. So the things that we talked about before, my husband and I, with these responsibilities and sharing them and what we do, when I started in school, it changed some. Now my schedule's different. So how our day-to-day things looks different. We have to show up differently. Those responsibilities change, right? And then not just that, maybe a job changes. Maybe you get a new job, or you start a job, or your significant other job changes. With those changes comes change in these responsibilities, and you have to consistently talk about them. You have to show up and have that meeting. I know this sounds weird and it can sound like a business, right? Like we're having a business meeting talking about like what's going on. Yes, you have to sit down with each other and talk about those specific things, because your life, it's a life together. These are important aspects of life together. You're a whole person, they're a whole person. You have all these different aspects to yourself, and so do they. And you guys are raising children, and you have this life, these lives that have to come together. You have to talk about how they are going to mesh. Otherwise, you end up living separate lives. Even though you're living together, you're living these separate lives. You're not communicating. Things are one side or the other, and it's not balanced. And somehow, some way, one person becomes a default parent, or one person becomes just the breadwinner, or there's all these whatever aspects that come into play, and it can cause a lot of tension in your relationships. It causes a lot of tension and stress and anxiety in your own lives. So what we want to do is prevent that. We prevent that by having these conversations and asking the questions. What are your expectations? How do you feel? What are your perspectives and thoughts on this? What can we do to come together to make it easier for both of us? And when you do that, the world seems to open up. Things shift and change. And then it becomes a partnership, and you walk hand in hand, and you're raising the child or children together versus it being more of a one-sided thing. You feel better, they feel better, your child feels better, because again, our children, they notice everything whether we realize it or not. They are literal sponges. If you look this up, neurologically speaking, when we're talking about the children's brain and how it develops, they take in literally everything around them like a sponge, and they feel everything. If you are stressed, if you are anxious, if you are worried, if you are happy, they feel that. They notice that. They see things that you don't think that they see in your relationship or in how you are in the day to day. So you want to be able to show up putting your best foot forward. You want to be able to show up in this relationship with your significant other in a way that your child is benefiting from. You don't want them to feel that stress. I know a few people that they share this with me, that when they were children, they witnessed things in their parents' relationship that impacted them in a negative way. I mean, we all have, right? Like we all have our things like, oh, my parents did this, and we all have our experiences. What I'm saying is those things in the relationship that you are not on mutual ground, those specific things impacted them as a child, and they remember seeing that. And what happens is when you grow up, all right, and you are in your own relationships, you tend to mirror what you experienced in some way. You either go through the same thing because that's what you saw, or you do the complete opposite. You're like, I don't want that, so I'm not doing this thing, and I'm just going to be over here, right? And it impacts your relationship. So just know that this conversation that you have with your significant other is going to dynamically impact you, your significant other, and your child and or children. It's going to impact everybody, and it's going to benefit all of you. So this is a conversation that is worth having. I speak from experience. This changed everything for me. I went from the default parent to having a partner, and it changed so much, and I feel so much better as a parent going through things. I can talk more to my husband about the things. We are far more open now than we were before. We share our feelings. I will ask him, how are you feeling about stuff? What's going on? Am I doing anything that's frustrating you? Like, we have these conversations because it helps our marriage. It helps our relationship, and it helps our family as a whole. And that to me is more important than anything. It's my family. It's one of my biggest values that I have that always comes first in my life. And I want to make sure that that thing is beautiful, that that thing is healthy, that it's going well. And the way to do that is by talking with my husband about the things, by speaking up and saying, hey, you know what? I'm noticing I'm doing more of these things and it's taking a toll, and this is what I need. My husband and I just talked about these new changes that are coming up when I get into that nursing program, when I start it. My schedule, I don't specifically know what it's going to look like semester to semester, but I do know that it's going to be a vigorous load on me. It's going to be a lot, and I'm not going to be able to work the same amount of hours. I'm not going to be able to show up the same way I'm able to show up now, which means that he's going to have to show up in ways he hasn't been showing up, that there's going to be experiences there, that we're going to have to specifically set an intention to make time with each other outside of that, or like just in general, once a week or once a month or whenever we can. We're going to have to set time aside to connect and spend time together and have a date if we're able to get that in. We're going to need to do that, and we don't have to do that as much now, but we will then, because it's going to be a change. So we're talking about that. We're discussing those things. What can we do? How can we show up? When it actually happens and I have that schedule for the semester, what are the things that we can do? How can we both show up so that we're both getting what we need and no one's feeling neglected? No one's feeling like it's more on one person than the other. We kind of use that scale, as you will, for the, he's going to hold more in this area, I'll hold more here. We'll kind of move things around, but we're both kind of sharing and we're talking about it in the meantime. These things are so important in creating a healthier aspect of your relationship, in making a healthier you, right? You want to be happier. You want to be healthier. You want to feel better every single day. You don't want to feel like all of it is on you. So if you take anything from this episode, it's to have the conversation, to communicate and to speak up and advocate for yourself. You must do this in order for things to change. If you don't, I will stress to you that you're either going to stay feeling the exact way you feel right now, or it's going to continue getting worse. Down the line, eventually, no matter what, you're going to feel worse. So you have nothing to lose here. You have everything to gain by sitting down with your significant other and having this conversation, because the awareness is everything. And the changes that come from it will change your life literally on so many levels. And you deserve that. You truly, truly do. So that is what I have for you today. And I really, really, really believe that you're getting from this episode and you gained everything that you needed at a time in your life that you needed it, because this is a topic that so many of us moms, so many of us experience. You could even share this episode with your significant other. Share it with them, because sometimes it's hard to speak up for yourself and talk about those things. We know too, sometimes your significant other, it takes hearing it from someone else for them to be like, oh yeah, you know what? I understand that more. I don't know why that is, but it happens that way sometimes. And so sharing this episode with them could make the difference. Maybe they hear things in a different way, and it does help to support the both of you. So hopefully you're able to take that step sometime soon for yourself and for your family, and it will make all the difference. Mama, I thank you so much for listening, for showing up for yourself. I want to remind you, which I will in every episode, that you are doing the best you can with what you have. And you know what? That is more than enough. I know sometimes it feels like it's not, but it truly is more than enough. You're doing a phenomenal job. You really, really are. Thank you for being here. Please share this episode with a fellow mom. Share it with your significant other. Share it with someone that you love, that you feel will gain the support that they need from it. I appreciate you, and I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. and I will chat with you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a fellow mom, and I will chat with you in the next episode.